Hey, welcome everyone. It's Dave here again for another video, and I'm very glad to be here. So thank you for tuning in. And today I'm just going to be talking about your state of being and the flow of energy through your body. So if your energy body is awakening and you're having strong symptoms and fluctuations of energy moving through your body, there's a purpose to it and to a reason for it, which is it's part of a purification process that's happening within. And initially, it can be really intense. There can be a lot of symptoms, a lot of emotional baggage that comes to the surface, but that is part of the purification because there's a lot that we're holding on to that we don't always know about. And most of the time we don't know about. And so when the energy starts to move through you, it brings these emotions and these beliefs that are out of alignment with love to the surface so they can be released, so they can be purged, so they can be expressed. And often that phase is pretty intense and pretty uncomfortable, but it does sort of wane over time. The purification always continues, however, those intense symptoms kind of die down. And that energy is trying to bring you to a state of being that is a higher form of love than you were existing at previously. Now, upon retrospect, I can kind of see that if I had adopted some practices into my way of being, I would have enhanced the flow, not only enhanced the flow of energy, but it just enhanced and assisted the process. So things could have gone a lot smoother without my resistance or interference. And so there are states of being that you can practice throughout the day and just be that way. And this is a very powerful form of practice to help enhance the flow of energy through your body, because you are practicing and moving in the same direction for your state of being that the energy is going to take you there anyways. And so otherwise, if you resist it, it's just going to be a heck of a lot more uncomfortable and you're going to draw it out. So the first thing, the purpose of the energy is it helps purge negative emotions. All of our negative emotions are based on fear, some sort of belief that is out of alignment with love that keeps us in a state of separation and keeps us away from unity and being unified from within and unified with the rest of life. And so each state of being that you practice can transmute negative energy in the body. So this goes beyond just bringing energy up, negative emotions and negative feelings up to the surface to be purged and expressed from the body. This is a process where you actively seek and transmute negative states of being, so that energy actually doesn't have to be released from your system. You can transform and transmute that negative energy into more more energy for your process, to help the purification process. Mic problems there. So the first one, of course, is just honesty and integrity. The energy does not move through your body, if you are not being honest with yourself or if you're not being honest with others. That is a very big block for the energy, and being fearful of the truth is a pretty common thing in this day and age, because sometimes the truth is pretty hard to handle. But if you can practice first being honest with yourself about who you really are, what you really want, and on a deeper level, whether what you're actually saying are your words, are your beliefs, are true to you. Because a lot of what we say and what we think and what we believe is just handed down to us from our parents or society, whatever that comes from. So starting to filter through a lot of how you perceive the world and what you're saying and what you're thinking, and looking at it and being, okay, is this really true to me or not? So take a look at that, because once you get to a place where you are honest And in integrity, what you do is you start to transform the energy of guilt. Guilt is always, this is my fault and I deserve a punishment for it, or I'm going to be punished, or something like that. That's usually the energy of guilt. And so when you live in honesty and integrity, that transmutes the guilt, and you don't really feel that at the same level of intensity anymore. It still might be a bit there, but you recognize it and it transmutes, and how you perceive the world starts to shift, because you start to not see that you did something wrong and that you deserve to be punished for it. All you do is you don't see consequences anymore. You just see the lessons that you need to learn from the situation. You realize that you don't know everything, and you see the situation, and it's just a learning opportunity, an opportunity for growth, an opportunity to expand who you are. And so when you are in honesty and integrity, that is how you start to perceive the world, and that perception starts to enhance the more flow of energy through your body. Okay, the next one, practicing self-acceptance and self-worth. This is pretty big, and self-worth transmutes the energy of shame. And shame is a very big barrier that's in your third energy center, your third chakra, in the solar plexus there. And when you do not believe that you are worth what you are worth, you settle for a lot less in life. You settle for relationships that are unhappy. You settle for jobs that are unhappy. You can settle for some pretty toxic scenarios and even situations that might be harmful or abusive to you. And so by practicing self-worth, self-acceptance, and loving yourself, you transmute that energy of shame. If there's a ball of energy in your third chakra that's just blocking that energy from moving up, practicing self-worth, self-acceptance helps transmute that and dissipate that energy. And when you sort of finally be able to accept yourself 100%, this is a constant work in process, because we all have our moments, that's for sure. There's no more inner critic. If you suffer from an inner critic that just continues to put yourself down, and you look at yourself in the mirror and all you can see is what you don't like, or whatever the inner critic says for you, when you practice self-love and self-acceptance, you build your self-worth, that voice in your head just starts to disappear and go away. And that voice is a really, really strong internal barrier to helping in having the energy flow through your body more. Okay, kindness and compassion. So kindness and compassion helps transmute the energy of toxic anger. Now, anger is a double-edged sword. It can be a good thing if used appropriately, but when anger gets out of control, you can bring a lot of harm to yourself and others, especially if you are seeing a lot of external circumstances as the source of your anger, when the source of your anger is you, because it comes from within you and nowhere else. So when someone feels powerless and they're angry, they can really do a lot of damage to themselves and people around them. But when you practice kindness and compassion, like when you are kind to someone, it is impossible for that toxic anger to get a grip on you. And when you practice being kind to yourself and compassionate to yourself and others, that energy of anger can really, really, really be harnessed for some amazing things. You can do so much good in the world, because some people just have a natural fire. That's just their inborn temperament. Some people are a little more chill and relaxed, and other people just have this fire that's within them that they have to channel into something. And when you temper that anger with kindness and compassion, you have the potential to do amazing things in the world, and channeling that fire for the benefit not only of yourself but of humanity. So if you struggle with managing your anger, kindness and compassion is the practice. Okay, the next one is confidence. Self-confidence and courage is the practice to help transmute the energy of anxiety. Having had anxiety for many, many years, most of my life, I can say without a doubt that I suffered from a huge lack of confidence. I just did not believe in myself or that I was capable of doing much. And so when you practice going into situations that are maybe just a little bit outside of your comfort zone, and then knowing that you can handle it and believe it, you feel the butterflies in your solar plexus come up, or whatever the symptoms are for you, the shaking hands, the nervousness, the shallow breathing. When you practice confidence, believing in yourself, knowing that you can handle whatever life throws at you, it brings a peace and calmness to your state of being. With anxiety, there's a lot of thoughts about the future and catastrophic outcomes, or outcomes that you spend a lot of time draining yourself worrying about, and a lot of the times they don't really come to pass. So it's a big waste of your life force, a big waste of your energy, especially if it's chronic. And that energy then gets sucked into that void of anxiety and does not move up through the purification process. That anxiety is a big block in your third energy center. And practicing confidence and self-belief is what helps transmute that. And again, there's a lot of excess energy in the system when you have anxiety, and that confidence and self-belief you can then take that energy and harness it and channel it into positive action. So if you have anxiety, if that's your thing, then the practice is confidence, courage. Okay, the next one, vulnerability and humility as a practice. So vulnerability and humility, it's what transmutes loneliness. Because when people are lonely, people can be around a lot of other people and still be lonely. And loneliness, it's a disconnect. There's a part of yourself that you're disconnected with that maybe is not coming to the surface or being expressed. Or sometimes when you're around other people, you're not being your true self. You're putting on a mask. And so because of that, you get lonely, because you're not actually connecting with people on a deeper level. It's connecting on a superficial level only. And to show who you truly are and be who you truly are, you have to be open to their slings and arrows, so to speak. You have to be open to the fact that they might judge you, they might make fun of you, they might put you down, or whatever that is. But once you stay in your vulnerability and your humility, you become immune to those slings and arrows. Like, that doesn't affect you anymore, because you realize these people are also just being superficial, and they're not connected with themselves, and they're just projecting their own hate and their own fear or whatever it is onto you. So practice vulnerability and humility, and that means going into situations where you feel like you have to be someone else to fit in, or just feel like you have to be someone else. Excuse me. Just gonna get a water here. Okay, so and this also, humility is a really, really good way to overcome your own ego. And when your energy starts to awaken, it's going to put you in situations where you will just have to learn to be humble, because one of the biggest barriers to the awakening process is a person's own ego, and how strong or thick that is depends a lot on how vulnerable and humble you are or you are not. And so practicing humility is a very good way to just not have your ego control you. So it's a fantastic practice. Next is gratitude and appreciation. So gratitude and appreciation, very, very powerful practice, transmutes so much negative energy in your body, but particularly it transmutes grief and sadness, and it transmutes greed. It also transmutes entitlement, or the energy of being spoiled. So there's a lot that gratitude and appreciation transmutes within your system, but I'm going to focus specifically on grief and greed, because they're there's two things that those emotions have in common, and that's you can really only ever see what you don't have. To be fully engaged in yourself and in the present, I mean, everything, all of life, everything that's all around you, that is all you. That is all the love energy, which is the very fabric of the reality that we're in, and it's the very fabric of you. And when you kind of understand what that means at a deeper level, and in terms of the interconnectedness with everything that you could possibly need or want, you should have access to right here, right now, if you allow it. And grief and greed block that. They don't allow you to access what is needed in the present moment, and they keep you stuck in what you don't have, or what you think you should have but don't, or want but don't, or whatever you have is not enough in the case of greed. So gratitude and appreciation, being able to see what you have and being grateful for it, and knowing that that's enough and being happy with that. Because especially in society today, we're so material based and money based, and the quest for money and wealth and more material and richer and being richer and more successful and more powerful, and it's never enough. That's just greed. And so when you can be grateful for what you have, that cuts that off because you can spend a lot of your energy chasing things that don't really matter in life. When you have greed, or you can get into some pretty depressive states when you're in grief, because you're always focused on what you don't have in your life. And in this case, it might be the loss of a person or the loss of a job or whatever. So by focusing on what you have and appreciating it, and being grateful for it, keeps those things in your life and puts it out to the universe that you will get more of what you need and be happy with it, rather than wanting more of what you don't need and being unhappy with it. I hope that makes sense. Okay, the last practice, forgiveness and tolerance. It's a really strong practice as well. I've done a lot of this work where I would just go through my life in chunks, in like 5 to 7 year bits, and I would look at all of the things that I did where I hurt others or others hurt me, and I held on to that, and I would forgive. And forgiveness is not a one and done type practice. It takes work, and it takes you being willing and able to feel some pain and some suffering, and ultimately that is what purpose does. It transmutes the energy of pain and suffering and transmutes it into love energy, and that is so potent and so powerful for your awakening process, for having that energy move through your body. The more you can practice forgiveness, the more you can practice tolerance. Those balls of pain that are held up in your energy body that are blocking the energy from flowing, they start to dissolve and dissipate as well. And that takes you out of the past, because pain and suffering, a lot of pain and suffering is from holding on to what is in the past and what used to be. And when you're fragmented with pain and suffering pulling you into past events and repeating past events, often you project that onto what is happening now, and you don't maybe see clearly what's happening now. You're only seeing a repetition of what you think is going to happen because of what happened in the past. And also with the anxiety, where your mind is always in future events. So these practices really, really help pull you into the present moment. And the present moment is where reality is. It's where you are, and it's where your power is, and how you access it is through being in the present moment. And so forgiveness, tolerance helps you let go of the burden, whatever burden you are carrying. And like I said at the beginning of the video, there is so much more burden that we are carrying than we realize, that it just weighs you down, and it creates this chronic burden over time that just makes you more tired and more exhausted, more cranky and more fearful. So all of these practices, they expand your capacity to love. And ultimately, that is what the energy flow takes you towards. It takes you to a higher state of being that is more of a loving nature, and it continues to grow and expand, and your capacity to love expands and reaches new levels, and your basic state of being, like your set point, just continues to up level and up level and up level over time, to where all of those negative emotions were just a thing of the past. Now you still feel them, but you understand that when you feel them, there's just more work to do in terms of whatever practice you have to do to get yourself to grow even more. So this is something that I wish I had early on in my practice, practicing those states of being. So practicing honesty and integrity, practicing self-confidence, courage, kindness, compassion, vulnerability, humility, gratitude, appreciation, forgiveness, and tolerance. All of those things will enhance the flow of energy. You practice it once, it's not going to immediately cause an upsurge in energy. This is just consistent practice work done over time is what yields the greatest results in anything in life, but particularly with getting the energy to move through your body for your awakening process. So if you're on the awakening journey, hopefully this helps you, and if you have any questions or comments, please drop below, and thank you very much for watching, and much love to everyone. Thank you.